Hi friends, in this video we will discuss on Aristotle poetics. Before coming to the chapter, we all have to know about Aristotle and his book Poetics. Aristotle was an ancient Greek philosopher and founder of literary criticism. He was the disciple of Plato and the teacher of Alexander the Great. You must not confuse with Alexander Pope and Alexander the Great. Aristotle Poetics is the earliest surviving work of dramatic theory, which was composed around 335 BCE. Dramatic theory is a term used for works that attempt to form theories about theatre and drama. Aristotle's original work was divided into two. Only the first part, which is about tragedy and epic, survives, and the second part, which was about comedy, lost. Now, come to the chapter. Aristotle Poetics begins with the definition of mimesis, which means imitation. Plato considered imitation as a mimicry, but Aristotle's view was different. He thinks that poet is creator, not mere imitator. It does not mean sort of mimicry. Poet creates things and teaches us to see something in his creation that we never saw before. This view is in opposition to Plato's idea that art corrupts the mind because it presents copies of reality. Later, he identifies imagination as that in virtue of which an image occurs in us. He is concerned to distinguish imagination from perception and mind. Imagination produces image when there is no perception, as in dreams. He claims that perception is always true, but imagination can be false. Concept of imagination seems to have been first introduced into philosophy by Aristotle. Later, he described epic, tragedy, and comedy. Epic is a narrative form which have unlimited time span. It narrates without the use of song and a spectacle to achieve its cathartic effect. Then, there is one question arise in your mind. What is catharsis? It is the key element of tragedy which includes pity and fear in audience. Pity of hero's plight and fear that it will befall us. A spectator sees that it is hamartia of hero which result in suffering. Hamartia means tragic error or unrecognized fault which bring the hero from happiness to suffering. Catharsis has three meanings: purgation, purification, and clarification. Purgation theory of emotion does not mean the removal of emotion, but reduced to a balanced proportion to give pleasure. This balance brings rest. The emotions should not be repressed, they must be allowed an outlet so that mental equilibrium is maintained. Purification theory does not involve driving out emotion, it should be controlled. It involves thought of moral conditioning. And the last is clarification theory, which shows that pleasure is linked with learning. Horrifying events in real life offer special kind of pleasure if it was well imitated in tragedy. It refers to the nature of tragedy rather than the reaction of audience. About tragedy, his view was it is the imitation of an action and through scenes of pity and fear bringing about catharsis of these emotions. He describes about creating good tragedy. Unity of plot should be maintained. He consider plot as a soul of tragedy. It must have a beginning, middle, and end. Beginning doesn't follow anything else but give rise to further action. End follows from what has gone before, but doesn't lead to further events. Middle follows beginning and give rise to the end. He argues that tragedy is superior to epic because it has all the epic element as well as a spectacle and music to provide pleasure for audience. He lists 6 constituent parts of tragedy. Mythos means plot, ethos means character, lexis means diction, dianoia means thought, opsis means a spectacle, melos means melody. Plot should arouse emotion of pity and fear, which is function of tragedy. It should be long enough to allow the change from happiness to misery, but not too long to be forgotten before the end. Peripetia and anagnorisis heightens the power of plot in a tragedy. Peripetia means reversal of situation, which also include change of character. Anagnorisis means was hero's sudden awareness of a real situation or the realization of things. It is the change from ignorance to knowledge. About character, his view was it must be good but not perfect. Wicked character may be introduced. It must be lifelike. There should be no sudden and a strange change in character. Aristotle argues that character is more important than sorry. Aristotle argues that plot is more important than character. He said there can be tragedy without character but none without plot. About thought, his view was it is the power of saying what can be said. A spoken reasoning of human character can explain the character or a story background. It is the language which give us the feeling of various character. About diction, it is the speech or language. It should reflect the moral qualities of character on the stage. It must be clear and grand with familiar words. Rare and unfamiliar words must be said wisely to impart elevation. About melody, it is the pleasure for of the tragedy. Spectacle, it refers to the set, costume, and props. About comedy, his view was it is an imitation of men worse than average. They are ridiculous, which is a species of ugly. The comic character makes mistake but not so seriously as to awaken pity or fear. It excites laughter. Comedy works in a similar way to tragedy, but with opposite effect. In a tragedy, we grieve over the fate of a man who must suffer for his flaw, perhaps touched by possibility that we might possess these flaws. But in comedy, we laugh at heroes for flaw. Sorry. But in comedy, we laugh at heroes' flaw and feel comforted that it is not ours. Thank you.